Welcome to SFG Top Performance. We have our regulars today, Jason and Derrick, and myself. We're going to give a brief overview of what happened here for the last couple months. We've had a lot of work get done, and we're finally got our heads above water from all the harvest and fertilizer getting applied there. So we're going to give an overview of how things went for us this fall. Go ahead, Derrick.
Sure. So for me this last month, what I came to talk about was a little bit of plot data on corn and soybeans, and we have a handful of plots throughout our trade territory, and I just kind of wanted to give an overview. For the corn this year, the trend of our later corn has shown up again, even in kind of a tougher year, even in a later planting year. We were a little worried about corn getting dried down, and in some areas we were worried about it getting black layered when we weren't getting as many heat units the end of August, and there was the drought, so everything was shutting down and things just weren't growing quite correctly. So we were a little bit worried, but overall, it's a trend that we've seen the last 3 or 4 years that the later corn, the 114 and above, is really stretching its legs out, and it's really showing a benefit. I mean, 3 4 years ago, 112, 113 day was the late corn, and that was kind of the latest a lot of people went. But I bet a third of what we sell is 114 plus now, and it's drying down just about as good as the 112 day stuff, and it's yielding. I mean, out in the field, it's sometimes 20 bushel better. So it's showing up. It's showing up in the plots too. I had three corn plots this year. 6595 decal is a really important hybrid for us, and in 3 plot average it was 251 and one bushels an acre, and one of those plots didn't even have fungicide, so it really showed up good. 2 out of my 3 plots are really high yielding, and I had 2 of them with kind of the top end type products. Decal 6618, that one did 267 in 2 plots average, both with fungicide, and then 2 plots of 11135, which is a new 111 day for decal, to 257 and a half. So this 111 day that's new coming up, I'm really excited about it. We've only had plot data from it, but it seems like it's going to run with the late corn. And I was riding around in the combines when we took those out, and there wasn't any standability issues, wasn't any green snap issues that I saw with those. A few products we saw coming new into the lineup that had some standability issues, and we don't want to run with those unless there's an improvement in the coming years, you could say. But I'm really excited about that new 111 day because it seems to be able to run with some of this late corn. On the cropland side, again, we talk about 5370 a lot. It's a 113 day cropland. It's our number one sold product in that lineup. Again, it's done really well. It's 113 day, and I only had it in 1 plot, and it was a real high yielding plot in a strip, and it did 280 bushels in that strip. And I know these plots, they're not field averages and that sort of thing, but it's kind of exciting to see that this 113 day can, in that strip, it can yield 280 bushels an acre and run with some of this really late corn. So the top end is really there, and I still take that one on tough acres and that sort of thing, and I really haven't found a spot where I don't like that one. So it's still big. It's still big in our lineup. New one, cropland, kind of a variable type product. 5244 is what it's called. Was new last year. 112 day product. Had it in 1 plot, and it was top five in the non-fungicide plot that we had. It looks like it's going to be really good, and it's more price competitive, so builds the package a little bit better. So it's not all top end products, and it's running with the high ones. It probably doesn't have quite as much top end potential, but it's really showing that it can handle the variability and no issues, and it'll stand out there in the field and be really good corn. So it's one to look at and put in a package. And kind of what I like to do is I like to do 3 hybrids minimum, and then, if you have 1 top end, 1 medium, or 2 mediums or that sort of thing, it makes the per bag average not near as scary. Because seed this year, I'm sure, as people have seen, it's up. I mean, we're up about 10%. I don't even try to hide that. And but we really like to do these plots to show the value of it, because this later corn, the expensive corn, it's showing up, and we're selling it. So that means that people are seeing the value of it. So on the soybean side, 2 soybean plots this year on the Enlist side and Extend Flex. biggest thing is it kind of following the same boat. The later beans this year with the drought did better than the early beans, which we all kind of expected. Out in the fields, the 2.6s, 2.8s lacked, I'd say, 5 to 10 bushel off of the 3.4 to 3.6s as a generalization, and that kind of showed up in the plots as well. I got 2 plots here. One, the highest maturity was a 4.0 bean, and it did 71 bushel in that plot, and they were pretty darn close. But the next was a 3.6, did 65. So that 4.0 is a Austin bean through Mershman through us, and it's been a really popular one since 2020, and one that we run with too. It gets a little late for up in our northern territory, but we move a lot of it down south. So it's something that is going to be really good, something to look at on the later side. As always, we talk about the Kennedy 3.6. It did really well. Won one of my soybean plots. We really haven't found a bad year for it. We'll still move quite a bit of it. Mershman is coming out with a new 3.6 that it was 1 bushel less than the Kennedy, so in a plot probably pretty comparable. But I'm going to dabble in that one this year and see if it can replace the 3.6. That's one thing I really like about Mershman is they don't come out with a new bean unless they can replace a current bean they have. So I'm going to take a look at that new 3.6, but it's just going to be hard to beat that Kennedy. It's just been a staple for them, and one that we'll use and continue to use for next year. But Jason, what have you found as far as the other products, or what worked well this year?
Well, as everybody knows, it's a challenging year, and right at Milo, we were kind of in the middle of north of town. They had pretty good yields. South of town, it was a little drier, so they weren't as fortunate. But there were a few products that really shined. If you had plant health and took care of your, did the fungicide and extra things, it shined this year. One thing that really worked good is the micros with the fertilizer. Everywhere we put them, I think we've seen a bump and increased yields. Foliar nitrogen with boron and the fungicide post did tremendous. There were some fields down south around Nakona that were 200 bushel, which that was pretty rare this year. So then even on the hillside, it was 180 or better. So that really shined. He was taking care of it. Plant health. He had plenty of nitrogen there that was feeding the plant. It didn't starve for anything except water. So anytime you keep things healthy, this was a prime year to show that if you were doing the right things, it was going to pay your dividends. So some other things that worked were, as Derrick mentioned, getting a good variety out there, not planting the cheapest varieties you can, and planting a good hybrid. That really helped. On soybeans, the fungicides and bug sprays, that did very well. There was, I think, 3 to 5 plus bushel everywhere that was at. And again, good fertility programs and keeping that plant healthy, doing anything we can to keep it healthy helped us this year. Derrick, is there anything else you noticed in your trials that?
Yeah, overall, like I said, I agree with you on the fungicide. On the fungicide piece, we had an untreated strip in a field that we stripped foliars with fungicide and an untreated, and we found that 3 to 5 bushel versus the untreated. And to be honest, I think that was a little on the light side because it was only a 100-foot strip, and I do believe that we caught a little bit of drift from that and that sort of thing, because we've heard bigger things. We had a big trial down south that it was put on big field, 300 acres. Half of it was put on with a airplane, and this is again this one trial, but it was 10 bushel everywhere they went. Were the treated versus the non-treated, down. As we went further south, the soybeans started to struggle a little bit, but they were getting the 55 to 60 bushel beans in the good field there instead of the 45 to 50 and that sort of thing. So there's the management piece really did show up this year, and we saw variability big this year, right? In a drought year, we have some areas that droughty conditions, parts of the field struggle a little bit, but the good parts of the field, I really do believe they did just as good as last year. So that's where, if you can get these inputs on the good parts of the field, we're always going to deal with variability in our area, but if you can focus on either the good fields or focus on the good part of the fields, do whatever you can to get more fertilizer there, get more of the products on the good parts, whether that be variable rate nitrogen, variable rate dry fertilizer. We've talked about our zone spreading on fertilizer a lot of the times. Anytime we're putting dollars into those good fields, good parts of the field, we're getting a return on it. So that's what even in a bad drought year we had half as much rain, it still paid to push those good areas.
And one other thing that I've noticed this year, and it's been the same the last 3 or 4 years, 2-pass chemical programs. If a 1 passes, there wasn't enough moisture to carry the residual and make it work. 2-pass programs were definitely hands down phenomenal. They worked well. Anywhere it was tried to skimp to save some money because of the weather or whatnot, it didn't work as well, and there were some weed issues, and that, as dry as we were, that cost some yield. So definitely a good 2-pass program is definitely shined again this year, which has been the same the last several years. So that's one thing.
Exactly, because like that weed pressure on those, we saw a lot of. If you get foxtail in a cornfield, I mean, that foxtail can almost take any water available for that corn crop. It's just going right to the foxtail. They seem to be able to just almost outcompete it, which is hard to believe. But anytime we get those weeds controlled, yeah, the little bit of water we had was going to the corn and soybeans instead of the weeds.
Yep. So.
Charles, how'd everything work in the operations world, or did we get all the work done this fall?
Well, we're still going. Everything at Milo worked good. Got the elevator going. Everything worked good. All the other elevators were in pretty darn good shape. Didn't quite get them all full, but due to the dry year, we were a little shy. Fertilizer wise, I mean, as soon as we got into fields, we got a lot of lime on. Still putting lime on, fertilizers, anhydrous. We hope to get another run of anhydrous. We had a really good run of anhydrous there. Worked hard for 1 week? So it seemed like it was a lot longer than that, but we ran hard for a week, and there went most of it. But we think we look like we're going to get another window here. There's a few guys still out trying to finish up a few fields, but it's just hopefully going to get better. It seems like we always pull some anhydrous. It seems like around Thanksgiving, and that's not too far away, a week away, but isn't that what we want to do? But it seems like every year we're always doing something around the Thanksgiving time where somebody wants to call you and say, hey, bring me a tank. I think I'll go ahead and start pulling. But anyway.
Got a little extra hands
Yep.
after Thanksgiving supper.
We need to get the heck out of the house. I've had enough house time. But anyway, that's the way it works. But now we're continuing fertilizer, super grow, you name it. Everything's working pretty good. The weather's holding off for us. So I think the way things are going, I think we're in pretty darn good shape. So, well, I want to thank you all for catching up with us, and we'll catch you again hopefully in 2 weeks. Thank you.